She won most talkative in high school, and she has been running her mouth ever since. Welcome to the Lisa Fisher Said podcast with your host, Lisa Fisher.
Okay, I love the name Chris Gibson, but I'm going to have to start with what got you interested in skincare and all the things?
Well, like a lot of stuff that happens with people that ends up guiding them through their life, I had issues with skin when I was young. So started off with acne breakouts at 11, family history of that. So to avoid scarring, they whisked me off to the dermatologist right away. None of that stuff worked. That poor dermatologist. And I had really good dermatology experts, but nothing we threw at it would work. So it got worse as I got older instead of better. And long story short, I went in my early 20s to a really expensive dermatologist in Dallas, where I'm originally from and where I was living. And they gave me the same prescription for the stuff I'd had before. So
Okay.
I just paid the bill, threw that in the garbage on the way out, and decided I had figured this out on my own. Now, this is in the 80s, so, there's no internet to look stuff up, so I had to do a lot of reading. I had to visit herbal shops. There was no vitamin shop, no GNC. That was not a popular thing. So in the back of these, strip malls, there would always be that herbalist back there,
Right.
the lady with people wrapped in with occult stuff.
Right.
But she taught me about fasting and cleansings and detoxification and herbs that would help. And so I started taking some herbal teas that actually made it a little bit worse. So right away I made the connection that something I was doing in my diet was triggering this. That's really where I first got that notion. Ended up went on a fast, took sugar, took a food vacation for 3 days, and the acne went away. Like away. And I'm like, how is that possible? So, I learned about probiotics. Again, long story short, I figured it out on my own. So, of course, that was a big deal in my family. I had cousins, and for a number of years, when people would come to me, and I was very interested, even though I had sort of a separate life in the corporate world, I was learning nutrition. I was studying aesthetics. I was doing all of those things, which is what I truly loved. And in 2004, I decided to start writing business books to help businesses market online. And my business partner, who had been remote, and his wife met me and couldn't believe at the time I was 40. And when I told them the skincare story, they go, "You need to write a book on that and tell that story." So we did. We put a little booklet out. This is before Amazon even was
Wow.
selling ebooks. And on ClickBank, which was where you sold ebooks at the time. And the thing just took off overnight. It was literally one of those things where I put it out not thinking it was going to do any different than the other books that we had been putting out, marketing it the same way, but it hit a nerve. And so over about a year, I took questions from people and answered them from the nutritional and aesthetic perspective, not just my perspective of what I had been through, because everybody's story is a little different. And we turned the ebook into a paperback. The paperback got picked up at a skincare forum in Toronto by a TV producer who had acne issues, was in her 40s, brought me up there and put me on television in Canada, and the rest is history. The book took off, sold over 1 million copies. It's his third printing, I think.
And what's the name of the
It doesn't sell
book?
as much anymore. Acne Free in 3 days.
All righty. I mean, that tells it right there.
And I did television shows for almost 4 years, all of them. You name one, I've probably been on it. And because it was a holistic approach, and the timing was the mid-2000s when MRSA and all of the effects of too much antibiotic use was becoming very prevalent.
Yes.
So all this timing was right for what I was talking about, before Activia,
Right.
yogurts and all of that stuff.
Which is crap,
So
a lot of that, by the way.
Yeah. Nutrition, probiotics really have to be supplemented in it takes a lot of it to get enough of it to where it needs to go. I was blessed in the timing of all of that. And then, the recession happened in 2008 and 9, and that was a business busting. And then my mom got sick, and I had that period that everybody seems to go through in their life where, your life's just upside down. That was upside down. The book was ending the end of its shelf life as far as being something new. I didn't really want to write another book yet. My mom was sick. She passed away. I was like, where do I want to live? I don't know if I want to live up north in the cold anymore. Maybe I want to go back south. So I sold everything and moved to Florida.
I don't blame you.
And sat on the beach for really 3 or 4 years working with just one-on-one clients. And then in 2018, I felt the urge, literally woke up one day and said, I need to revisit my YouTube channel. And maybe I should do something with that because now I don't have to travel for TV, which was very hard. And I could talk about what I want without being censored so much. And so I said, I'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
And I did. There was a good timing again, right? This is when the whole thing came out about the effect of sunscreen chemicals on ocean and marine life.
Right.
Yeah. So that was my first video. I had TV clips on that channel. It's been there since 2010, but it went out and it did, for a new YouTuber, it did really well. So I started putting out really terrible content. I had to unlearn television. I had been doing 4 and 5 minute segments so long, and YouTube is not TV. It is TV, but it's not TV.
That's right.
And so as I got better, things got better. But it's when I started talking about, when I made the shift from the effects of all of this for skin problems, which I still talk about holistic approaches, to anti-aging, because now I'm almost 60. I'm 58. I've really walked this talk since I was in my early 20s. I look good. I feel good. My health is really, really good. Knock on wood. I'm not on any medication. So there are a lot of people who were paying attention. And when I gave my age, they went, "You're lying."
Right.
So that went to that whole thing on YouTube of, show us your driver's license, your passport, give us all your personal information. We don't believe you. And I used the TV. I talked about my age in the TV clips. I certainly wasn't going to put my driver's license on YouTube. I was going to do that. So that has kind of died down, but it has allowed me to find a place on YouTube that's unique because I'm a guy talking about skincare and holistic health over 50, where that particular channelship or market is mostly women in their 50s, and they do fashion and makeup and all of that. So I really am more skincare and fitness and diet and supplementation. And I review skincare. I formulated 2 skincare lines in my lifetime. So I know ingredients very well, how they work, when to know if they are working or not, how much to spend on them. So it gives me a lot to talk about. Plus, we have all the new technology now, the red light devices, therapies that work very, very well for people in the home that can't even use skincare products. So not a loss to have conversations or topics, but it's fun. It's good timing again for me, and this way people get to grow. It's funny because some of the people following me on the acne stuff were in their 20s are now in their early 40s, late 30s. They're all back.
Yeah.
They're following me again. So it's been a real interest. They kind of grew up with me.
Well, for those listening,
it's nice.
We will post this to my YouTube channel, and I love your content on YouTube, by the way. But for those listening and you're not watching, you need to find it on YouTube, because I would say people think you're about 33 or 34.
Yeah, 30. I still get carded.
Oh my God.
I get carded. And the thing is, not all the time, but if it's busy and they really don't look really close, I wear hats. It's Florida, so I'm protecting my skin all the time, which takes a few years off when you wear the hat. But I get carded. And I get looked at the airport when I'm going through TSA. They go, "Take your hat off. Take your glasses off." Oh, okay, that is you. So it's just, it's not that I help people look younger, but I do help people look healthier. And so I don't want to look like I did when I was 20. I look at those pictures and go, "Oh, I don't want to be that lanky person with acne again." No. So I try to keep the perspective, even though I have to use that language because that's the skincare industry's language. Look younger, take 20 years off, blah, blah, blah. What it really is helping people find a way to rejuvenate their skin so that it looks the way it should look at the age. Just because you get older doesn't mean your skin has to deteriorate. It's sun damage is a lot of it. Diet is another good portion of it, and your physical activity. We're always producing cells, so either producing healthier ones or not so healthier ones.
That's right.
So, you can do a lot and can change a lot. And then I'm not against plastic surgery or procedures when it's time. So I tell people, you get to a certain point where if you're really not happy with something, then an enhancement rather than a facelift necessarily, but an enhancement may make things better. And there are plastic surgeons. In fact, I'm about to do a series with one that think that way, that you're not going to go in and they're going to fill you full of fillers and Botox and all that stuff. They really are mindful of everything you do has consequences. If you start that stuff too early, you end up, we look at Madonna these days. She's a little bit older than me, and that stuff has a time limit on how long it can help you out. So if you start too early, if you start in your 30s and 40s using those things, the effects you get later on in life that you would really like to see won't be there. So I try to take all of that into account. There are people that overdo it, just like people overdo fitness, diets, all of that stuff. But I try to keep it real, as you know, if you've been watching on the channel. Not everything works for everybody, right, including me. So I talk about that. And,
you're approaching this in an inside-out approach. The fact that you were an early adopter to fasting, because I'm a 5-year intermittent faster and a certified health coach. It's my mantra now. It's what I do. It has turned back the hands of time for me. It's turned back health conditions that I've eradicated.
Oh, it does.
But you were doing it when I at least have Dr. Fung Science and Dr. Ken Berry, because I'm a carnivore too, and all these other things. But you didn't have anybody. People thought you were nuts,
Chris.
I
had Edgar Casey. Oh. The Sleeping Prophet. That's where I learned about fasting.
Wow.
From the 1940s. So, but it worked.
How did you know though? Like, how did you know to try it?
Intuitively, I'd tried everything else. And I had made that connection between my diet and the severeness of the breakouts. When I was doing the herbal, I was doing Tahibo tea, which is a bark that is a very strong antioxidant. So it stirs a lot of stuff up first.
Yeah.
So I was taking Tahibo and the skin got worse, and then it started to get better. And I remember going into the Circle K in Dallas in that lovely 101-degree heat.
Yes.
And getting a big, giant Coca-Cola.
Yeah, big gulp. Yes.
The giant one. Yes, the like the 7-Eleven big gulp. And I sat there and I don't know if I was fooling with her. I don't know why. But I looked up in the rearview mirror and the spots began to get really red really fast. So I had a really severe breakout from all the sugar hitting my bloodstream. So that's when I learned about yeast. That made that connection. Then the Edgar Casey stuff was about, the food vacation, taking things out of your diet, and letting your body, they didn't have the word back there, autophagy, but that's basically what you're doing. Right. You're giving your body a chance to go, you know what, let's get all the trash out of here.
That's it.
And let's start rebuilding some healthier cells. So these days I can enjoy a piece of cake or a Coca-Cola if I want one. It's not a staple in my diet, and I don't have reactions anymore because I've had such a long history now of, doing the colon cleanses when needed and doing the intermittent fasting. And I don't do the 3-day solid fast much anymore. Intermittent fasting seems to work very well, and it's tolerable on an ongoing basis. So rather than have these big detox sessions, I detox a little every day.
Yeah.
By doing
I think it's great.
So it's just easier I think it's easier on your system. If you're sick, fasting, I have an acquaintance in the YouTube world who just came out with his story. We've been watching this. Stage 4 cancer, get your stuff in order, chose not to do chemo, chose not to do any of that, went and did metabolic cancer treatments, did the fasting, and the cancer ate itself and went away. And he's fine. He's fine. And who
is that person?
It's Owen. I forget his last name. Anytime he asks me a name, okay. I'm like, I can send it to you, but he's just now putting that out on YouTube, and it's great.
Yeah, send it to me, and we'll put it up. We'll put it in the show notes.
It'll probably come to me when we're not talking about it. Yeah, it's quite a story because we've watched him go through that whole process and not get sicker, not lose all of his hair, and not look emaciated. Because he's like, I starved the cancer. He said, let me tell you, when it comes to fasting, you'll starve out the cancer before you starve.
I totally believe that.
Because the human body can go a long time without food. Cancer cannot. So he's been basically metabolic cancer treatments are of the theory that when you eat, the cancer eats. You're feeding
That's
it.
right.
So when you're in autophagy, when you're in that session of that, the cancer still cells, the body's still going to destroy them, take the components it can reuse, and then, of course, you get better. So I'm not a doctor, so I'm going to say I'm not prescribing that to people, but I'm just saying that the cancer treatments now are headed away from the chemotherapy stuff.
In our
and
world,
trying to kill you.
You go to the cancer treatment center near you, and they're lined up out the door. So it's to each his own, and I certainly respect whatever someone chooses.
You do what you feel intuitively is going to work for you. People get cured through chemo all the time. It's just nice to see someone do something that's not so invasive.
Love it.
That is at the end.
I love it.
I mean, you're either going to get in a study or you're going to die. So you're going to die doing chemo. We'll keep you along because he has kids.
That's right.
And he made a different choice, and it worked out very well for him. So it's a voice and an option that now will get more more eyeballs on it. And I shared it out on Facebook because I just think it's an incredible story.
It's very inspiring.
And I know it's how honest it is because I watched it happen myself.
Yeah, it's very inspiring.
It's not something I heard, I saw it.
Okay, well, let's talk about then, so insulin is both an enemy and an advocate. We have to have it to usher glucose to the cells. But we know that this insulin resistance and high circulating insulin causes things, well, we know cancer, the connection to dementia. But what about skin conditions? So
yeah, it degrades collagen and elastin fibers.
Got it.
Because when you have too much sugar and it can't be dealt with, it oxygenates and it becomes an actual toxin in your skin and your body. So it actually degrades cell walls. So what we know about that's why we see so many poor skin health in people with diabetes.
Yes.
Is because their skin it's attacking your cells.
Got it.
So too much sugar. And it's not just sugar. I mean, insulin can be kicked off by other things.
Absolutely.
You could spend all day on that.
Yeah.
But if you're exercising, and I'm going to say intermittent fasting, that's what I do. And you are making sure you get enough fluids and enough supplementation like vitamin K2, you can really ward off a lot of skin aging. Skin aging is sort of like the last thing. You've already got stuff going on internally when your skin begins to show you trouble. Because circulation, let's take that for example. We know that a fitness program can make a lot of difference in insulin resistance, especially not being an athlete, but just movement. 20 minutes of moderate activity every day can make a big difference. That's going to get more oxygen, more nutrition to this actual skin cells that have to come from capillaries. Your major arteries don't feed your skin, your capillaries do. So if you've got shut down in your circulatory system, a lot of people who, when I was doing a lot of fitness training back in the day, would have what we call the sting. So they would start the exercise programs and they would say, my skin would itch, like it would get really red and stingy. So that's all that oxygen and nutrients coming to the surface of your skin. Your capillaries are opening, and that's why you feel that flush and that sort of burning sensation in your skin is because things are opening up. So I've seen people that had severe histories of drug use get off of those narcotics and into exercise programs, and their skin completely changed.
Oh, I believe that.
Just from increasing and improving their circulation, they were able to reverse a lot of that damage. So
okay, well, you're living in God's country there in Florida, where
it's hot.
there's freedom and there's sunlight, two things that motivate me. So I, like you, got rid of all my sunscreen when that came out a few years ago. I haven't used it since, but I have, and I'm getting my 20 minutes of vitamin D every day. I do morning sunlight and evening sunlight to set my circadian rhythms, my melatonin, but my skin still looks good. Then how come I'm not having the aging, the brown spots and all that, even though I'm out in the sun with no sunscreen for 20 minutes?
Because it's a low dose of UVB light.
Okay.
So you take people up in the Northeast where I lived for 16 years, there is a lack of sun protection up there, especially in the wintertime, and they're out in it all day. So their skin does get damaged because it's constantly exposed to UVA, UVB light. Okay. The body knows what to do with some of it. Your diet is helpful if you have a healthy you don't have to be vegetarian, but sort of a Mediterranean bent in your diet with olive oil and lots of, red vegetables. Your skin can handle the sunlight to a certain degree. I have to preach mineral sunscreen to people because they don't use anything and they're out in it all day.
Got it.
And then the damage that I work with on people are like people that laid out in the sun in baby oil, live on the beach, and don't protect their skin at all with hats or clothing or anything. So I'm not a fan of chemical sunscreens. I preach mineral, and there are so many new versions of zinc oxide sunscreens that are really great. They absorb, they don't make you look greasy and white, or they work for all skin tones. So it really depends on you, your health, and your environment. Again, it's a little different for everyone. So, but most people that watch or listen to me are not nutritionists. They're not doing most of the things that I'm talking about on a consistent basis. So for those guys, I'm like, yeah, you probably should be wearing sunscreen, or what you're doing is going to work.
Got it.
If you're driving around, especially in the South.
Right. I'm in Little Rock. I know.
Where are UVB?
I understand. But I also saw where one of the people I follow said, and Hyman has said it too, that industrial seed oils are so poisonous to us. Those people have a higher propensity for skin cancer and oxidative stress and sun damage. And that probably is it too. I am mostly meat-based, but I do still have some things like avocados, avocado oil, olive oil, coconut oil.
Avocado, tomatoes, anything that's high in vitamin A. The vitamin A is a really funny thing because if you have too much of it, it'll kill you.
Right.
But most people don't have enough. So the trick with Americans, since I'm one, I always say this, the trick with Americans is that people tend to do too much. Like if it's good for me, I'm going to do more of it.
Right. We overdo it.
And I'm like, no. No, so don't take a bunch of vitamin A. Don't take a bunch of vitamin D. Now we have people taking too much vitamin D.
Really?
Because, I'll just take more vitamin D in the supplement form. Well, that's a fatty vitamin.
Yeah.
So it's going to build up. So it can cause problems. So I try to educate to the degree that I can. And then I try to back it up with what the science is saying, what the studies say. That, what we see with that. So we know that taking vitamin K2 supplementation, which is typically hard for people to get the K2 version any other way and enough. And it's such an important nutrient because it helps your body move calcium around correctly, keeps it out of your arteries and calcification out of the brain, keeps it in the bones.
The K2 does that?
Keeps it in the K2 does that.
Okay, so that's why vitamin D3 with K2 is what you're looking for on the shelf.
K2 is why, yes. Especially for women because of the osteoporosis issue. It's funny, it's been known for a while. In 2000, before my mom passed away in 2011, in the 2000s, she had severe osteoporosis. They had her on the bone medications, but they also had her on K2 with vitamin D3 because they were seeing even back then that the combination of Boniva at the time and that vitamin really made a difference in the point level in your bone scans. So it's like, we could see the improvement from just that nutritional added. I wasn't surprised.
Yes.
But it's so it's good to go and get a blood test and know what you're short on. It's good to know because everybody's environment is different.
That's right.
Your toxicity in your environment is different. What you clean your house with, wash your clothes with, all this stuff has impact. So it's good to go and spend the $100 to find out where am I nutritionally am I deficient in, especially minerals is really where that will help you out. Magnesium, potassium. I have people who write me back and say, I went and got that test and I was short magnesium or potassium, and we got that. The doctor helped me get that back on track, and I feel like a different human being. And I'm
electrolytes are amazing. I can't believe
it's from a mineral deficiency that they felt like crap all the time.
Yeah,
and I'm like going,
for sure,
it can kill you. Those electrolytes and those minerals, we're basically an electrical system, and if they're not present, heartbeats get out of whack, all sorts of things go on.
Well, then along that vein, are you doing the grounding and the earthing, and you're walking outside with no socks or shoes on?
All the time. I've done that my whole life.
You were weird before it was cool.
I'm a weirdo. Yes, I have. In fact, when I moved into this house, I lived on the beach for 7 years here. And then I finally got enough of that,
Enough of
and moved.
perfection, right?
Enough of being on the beach with all the tourists and all that
true.
stuff. It's lovely when it's off season, but
Yeah.
then, for me, life's been chapters. Like I lived in Texas and then I moved to Tennessee for a while. Then I moved to Pennsylvania and did the Northeast I did, all of the North New England states, loved it. Then I got tired of that. Now I'm here. So of course I did the beach, but then it gets to a point where what I needed out of it, I got. So when it got to the point where I was out there all the time and not even walking out on the beach, I'm like, okay, time to move because I don't need that
Got
anymore.
it.
So I guess next for me will be mountains of some kind. I'm not sure. Who knows?
The West is beautiful.
But yeah, I go wherever I feel whatever feeds me. But I've done that since I was a kid. But the point I was at, when I moved into this house, I took the things that had been in storage forever because I had a little bungalow on the beach. I didn't have a big house. I didn't want a big house anymore. I've had books from the 80s on reflexology.
Really?
That I learned about that from Louise Hay. And so I was plugged in. Yeah, I'm a baby. I'm the Louise Hay, Jack Canfield.
Yeah.
That's who was all prominent when I was learning all of this stuff. Edgar Casey.
Yeah.
All of that. And it was a little occultish on one side because the law of attraction and all of that stuff. But the food science was on track because I did spiritual nutrition in the rainbow diet where I ate the different colors. I tried that for a few months and it really helped me out health-wise. So I learned a lot that way because there was no internet to type anything in. It was trial and error. You had to you got to give something 90 days. Now I've learned that, and that's still true. If you're doing a skincare product or an exercise or anything, you take a selfie, which we have the luxury of doing now. Just like you can go get your health markers, your inflammation levels, all that checked, then go back in 90 days and do it again and look at the difference if you've been consistent. I think to two things that I have, and it's funny because it used to be pointed out to me, my girlfriend's mother used to point two things out about me, but it's really true. I'm very disciplined and I'm very consistent.
Well, there you go.
In when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm not one of these people to test out a product for a week and go, it doesn't work. Especially when it comes to light therapies, these new technologies, they do work.
Well, let's talk about that. Are you loving the red light?
Oh yeah. Red light therapy, a good red light therapy device or a radio frequency device, both, and electromagnetic stimulation, which are things that have been around for a long time, in the sports world, really can make a difference. That's how I tell people that's how we saw speed healing with people in football. They would get an injury that'd take a person out for 2 years, if not for life, and suddenly they're back on the field in 6 to 8 weeks. Well, they were using these red light therapies, blue light therapies, radio frequency, ultrasounds to stimulate the mitochondria and the cell, repair. And now we have stem cell technology that's coming in on top of that. And I keep telling everyone what you're going to see, in my opinion, is that your skincare routines, your health routines are going to be physically driven by these devices and your own, physical fitness, and your skincare products are going to become your secondary layer, where it's flipped right now. Everybody thinks of creams and potions and lotions.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with them. There are a lot of great ingredients out there that are very good. The trick is to figuring out what's good for you. So that's why estheticians are really important. Dermatologists, when you need one, is really important. If you've got something going on you can't figure out, you need to know what it is. Go to the doctor. Because skin cancer is one of those things you can catch early if you're paying attention.
Now, with your light blue eyes living in Florida, have you had any precancerous anything? What do you think you attribute that to then? Good diet?
The same thing. I think all of that stuff is easier to get triggered when you have a toxic system.
Yeah.
And I don't typically have that. I'm not to say that could never happen.
I understand.
But it's my genealogy is very weird, which I guess is probably benefiting me too. I do talk a little bit about genetics. in that I learned I have, let's just say that my ancestors got around.
Okay. All
So I
righty.
have a little bit of Viking. I
Yeah.
have sub-Saharan African. I don't think I don't have is American Indian. So I don't have any of that, which is kind of surprising. But, I have a lot of, I have that mix and even some Asian
Okay.
history in there. So I'm like, wow, okay. So my family, apparently the travel bug is old because they migrated a lot. The people that my ancestry were people that migrated a lot. I mean, we're talking from Asia to Africa to the UK to Nordic countries and then across to the US into Chicago and then into Mississippi, which is a really weird divergent thing, but apparently from what I've learned, that was pretty typical back then. The middle of the country didn't have a lot to offer.
Right.
So you either went that way or you went south. So, especially after Reconstruction. So it's an interesting, I wonder, and I think as we go along, they're cracking a lot of this code with the genetics. I think I'll learn even more interesting things. What I tell people today is we have a double-edged sword, and then we have a medical community, which is amazing. They're coming up with amazing things. I love Tony Robbins' new book on longevity. It's really, really good. But at the same token, we are diluting, I hesitate to say this, but it's really true. In the species, we're diluting natural selection. So in the history, if you study all of this health stuff, how diseases were eradicated is people died from them, and the people that were immune to them or had strength against them survived. That's just how it was. Right. But now we have people who survive with all kinds of crazy stuff. So it's super important to take care of yourself. And that's what you see in the genetic codes is you may have a disposition for certain things because those things are now carried forward. Nothing wrong with that. It's just you need to be aware. So I think it's good to know your genetic predispositions to certain things. Keep an eye on them, especially when it comes to eye health. For a lot of Anglo people, white people, eyes are a big deal. Macular degeneration, very common. So making sure you keep those supplements and keeping your diet where it's eye healthy is very important. A lot of people go, you never talk about eyes. Well, if you do the other stuff I'm talking about, you're taking care of your eyes. But you can't. And I think that's what we see. I think that's what we saw at the pandemic. The people that had the weak systems really suffered with that. I mean, I caught it twice and it was basically a cold for me.
Well, you know what? That now study has just come out that people who do intermittent fasting had an easier time with COVID. Again, autophagy for the win.
Yeah, it does. It really does make a big difference. And I'm sure the people that listen to you already know this. What I always say when I explain is basically your cells take the trash out.
That's it.
They know
taking the trash out.
They consume and break down cells that are diseased and damaged. You pass the contents of the cells are passed, just like food is. And the good parts of the cells are kept to rebuild new cells, and they're stronger because the cells have consciousness. They know at the cellular level what caused the problem. So when they build back a stronger cell, you're less likely to get sick again. So a lot of people don't, they think, oh, it's just fasting and you're losing fat. Well, you burn a little fat, but it's really not that. It's a very, very important process in the body. And it's, we evolved with it. We didn't eat all the time, day and night, so autophagy happened more naturally back when we were chasing things.
That's right.
So did fitness.
That's right. And we were moving.
But,
we weren't on a treadmill.
We were moving and
we were moving.
And we didn't eat every day. There were snacks in the hut.
None.
Doritos in the hut.
That's right. So what do you do for a treat if you want a treat?
I have what I want when I want it. I rarely want something super sweet. I have, I love honey. I like stevia. I like plant-based sweeteners. But if I want something bad, this is the first summer. It's funny you asked that question because I was talking to somebody. I have my whole life loved ice cream. And ice cream is you can't eat a lot of it, or I can't. So I've tried the new stuff, the soy, the almond milk. I've tried it's all okay. This is the first summer I haven't had any ice cream.
Really?
I haven't wanted it
Haven't
for
wanted
whatever
it.
reason.
So there's something in your diet fulfilling you that you're not out
Yeah,
seeking.
yeah. So I eat. I like dates.
Yeah.
I have fruit. I have a banana almost
Oh, you're
every
in
day.
Florida
I
too.
have red.
Yeah, really good fruit. Really good fruit in
Yeah,
Florida.
red grapefruits are one of my
Yeah.
favorites. Avocado. Again, I'll eat some dried fruits that aren't pre-sweetened. But I haven't really wanted it. I love watermelon, so sometimes I'll have that. But it's actually not as bad for you as people think. I think it's a cup. A cup of watermelon, 10 grams of sugar. It's the same as other fruit.
Yeah.
Now, if you eat a whole watermelon, that might be a problem.
Right. Would be a problem.
It's very hydrating. I'm really big on staying hydrated. I like pomegranates.
Yeah.
I'm a weirdo.
I love those things. Okay, let's talk about on your social media, on your YouTube, you have like these topics, Chris, that you tackle. You say to do this, and we're going to go through them now, and you're going to kind of give us the Reader's Digest. How do you remove a mole? You do a mole removal video.
Let me tell you, that thing is something I learned when I was learning about the fast, all the fasting, the apple, your Casey stuff. And I had been doing landscaping way, way back then. People, when I tell that story, they go, wow. I'm like, I'm almost 60. That's a lifetime of different things. I've made bricks for a living too when I was in college. So, we all do what we had to do, right? But I had a wart on my hand I could not get rid of. And I went to a doctor's appointment with my mother for something. I don't remember what she had done. And they offered to freeze it for me because I was complaining. And I thought, well, freezing it, it makes sense because it's a virus. So, so they froze it and it hurt like hell. Oh my God. It turned black.
Oh,
it was the ugliest thing you ever saw. Killed all the skin around it. Wherever that went, it killed the skin. Didn't leave a scar, which is amazing. It finally went away and then it came back.
Right.
The same one. I went, how is that possible? So in reading the Edgar Casey material, because I like to be transparent about this, he talked about using castor oil and baking soda to stop the virus. It changes the pH in the dead skin around the virus and stops it from replicating. So I tried it and guess what? It worked. So one of the videos I made early on, because I didn't know what I wanted the channel to focus on, was all the holistic stuff that I knew. So I basically was taking what I had talked about for years for acne and all of these other issues and did a video on it. And it's got over 1 million views. It's still very popular. People come back. It worked for them. Apple cider vinegar, same thing, will help with those.
Yeah.
Just applying it to the wart or the mole. Now, moles, I do say people need to have those checked. A regular mole you've had your whole life, if it's or a skin tag that's bothering you on your in your belt area or something, you're not going to get cancer from a mole that you treat with that. But if you have a mole that's acting up and that's why you're wanting to treat it, or it's changing colors, you need to go have that looked at because that's not the same thing we're talking about. But it worked. So I did that video and I had somebody taking my long form videos and making shorts out of them because you do short videos on YouTube and on TikTok, which I'm on as well. Video did extremely well, like 300,000 views. And boy, did it stir stuff up because on TikTok, and I agree, there are a lot of things on TikTok that are just crazy.
Very
that people
crazy.
tell people to do.
Very crazy.
So I finally just turned the comments off on it.
Oh, smart.
Most of it was really good, but there were those people that were tagging every doctor known to man.
Lawyers.
Trying to get somebody to call me out. Right. Well, no lawyers, but trying to call me out on this. And of course I put the links to their studies and thankfully Dr. Mike, who's really big on YouTube, has talked about, like warts and duct tape, it does work.
Yes, I've heard.
He would prefer you go to a doctor, but if you're going to do it yourself, it does work. You starving the virus of oxygen, basically of what makes the virus replicate, and that's why it goes away. So freezing it didn't work for me. It didn't go deep enough, but that pH change in my skin was enough to get all the way down to where the root of that wart had taken place. And I've I haven't ever had any more since then either.
Fascinating.
But no, I have a very alkaline system now. So
I love it.
So yeah, that was a big one. The wart video. I thought forever I'm going to be known as the wart.
You
guy.
are the wart.
Then I thought I'll be known as the acne guy on YouTube.
That's right. That's who you are.
Because those were the videos that were so big. But now it's the guy he's how old? That's who I am now.
That's great.
He's how old?
That's great.
So.
Now, milia, you also talk about that, which are the little white bumps
Yep.
you get sometimes in the back of your arm, or you might get them on your face.
Yeah,
How do you remove
babies
those?
get them a lot.
Yeah, babies
when they're
get them.
young. It's keratin deposits under. What happens is a tiny, teensy skin cell that's dead gets trapped under the very surface skin layer, and keratin begins to attach to it from your oil that you produce, your sebum. And it grows and it makes a little seed. It's not a pimple. It sits on the surface of the skin. Again, infants get them a lot of times because the diet's so rich, the milk diet, there's a lot of nutrients they need and but they go away on their own. So as an esthetician, I cannot tell people that they should do anything. The needle, to remove them with a needle is the easiest way to do it, but estheticians can't perform that because it pierces the skin. So you have to go to a dermatologist to do that, or you have to do it yourself. There's no law says you can't do it yourself.
That's right.
I just can't do it for you. So the easiest way to deal with them is to look at your makeup and skincare products and make sure they do not have petroleum or mineral oil in them, because a lot of people that use products that are heavy in the petroleum oil, that sticks to that little tiny skin cell and makes it get stuck.
Got it.
So cosmetics can create them. A diet heavy in the wrong kind of fats,
right?
Cholesterol, high cholesterol can create them. I tell people glycolic acid or lactic acid serums help thin out that layer of skin that's right over the top, and eventually they usually will go away on their own. You can remove them with the needle by piercing, sterilizing the needle in the skin and piercing that skin. You don't push them out. You just pierce that piece of skin that's over the actual milia, and usually it will come out on its own.
Right.
People, they'll be especially around the eyes. Please don't use needles around your eyes. But those serums will really help, and they will also help keep them from reforming. So, and some people are predisposed to them just because of their chemistry.
Yeah.
So you really have to sort of play around with them. But they can be, of course, my dogs are now playing behind me. Sorry.
That's okay. I love it.
So I keep turning around. So yeah, it really is kind of looking at where they are and it's easier to remove them. You can use a scrub a lot of times if they're somewhere on the body, but it really is thinning out that very thin layer of surface skin holding them in. That's why they sit on the skin and they sort of look weird and have that kind of color.
Then what's your feeling? You mentioned glycolic acid. What's your feeling on the whole retinol vibe?
Retinols, well, it's gotten better. Retinoic acid, let's start there. Retinoic acid is what the mechanism is your skin uses to help boost production of collagen, also help strengthen the fibroblasts, all of that. It also can help dislodge and remove precancerous skin cells. That's all been proven scientifically in people. The issue with it is that it goes through a chemical conversion on the skin. So if you're using tretinoin, which is a prescription strength, or regular retinol,
so Retin-A,
then you've got to go
Retin-A or
Retin-A.
over the
You've got to go from on your skin. It's got to go from Retin-A or retinol to retinaldehyde to retinoic acid. And it's that conversion process on the skin that creates a lot of the irritation people notice, because your skin's going, what is going on?
Yeah.
Anytime there's something on your skin that's going through a chemical process, skin doesn't like it. So it's an acclimation period. The good news is if you cannot tolerate it, there are alternatives. You can get retinaldehyde serums now. Maylove is a brand that makes one which cuts out that conversion and goes right to retinoic acid, and it's very mild. It just really helps your skin heal itself much better when it's used correctly. If you still have problems with retinols, then again, you can use like bakuchiol, which is a herbal oil that does similar things, but it is not a vitamin A derivative. So there are alternatives. It does. It's very helpful. I know people that have been using Retin-A without a problem since they were in their 20s because it came out when I was in my 20s, and their skin looks fabulous. The issue they have is I used it on my face and nowhere else, so now my chest and my neck look like a mummy's, and my face looks amazing.
Yeah.
The good news is there's something called encapsulated retinol. And encapsulated retinol is retinol it's combined with something like shea butter, something to help slow down that conversion process so that you get the benefits without the irritation. Even body, excuse me, even body lotions, over the counter preparations like CeraVe, they have them that are they're more mild, but can give you the same benefits over time. You know, there's a lot of conjecture about, you know, should you use it when you're pregnant? And there are a lot of things because it's vitamin A. If you're using retinol products properly, even prescription strength, they should not cause you a problem. Again, what we find issues is people go, oh, more is better. So instead of using retinol once a day, I'm using it twice a day, or I'm using my prescription strength. And you should use it at night, not during the day, because sunlight, the minute it hits that, retinoic acid is destroyed. So basically you get a little bit of benefit in the morning, can make your skin more sensitive to sunlight. So it's better to use it at night. It's sort of like your night, because, you know, our body goes through that same repair cycle for our skin as it does everything else. It's a rebuilding process, autophagy, all of that happens when we sleep.
That's right.
So that gives the retinoic acid, because that's what you want. It's the retinoic acid is completely natural. It's not going to cause any problems. But that conversion process that happens with especially prescription strength Retin-A can be an issue for people, especially on the neck and chest, where we need some care as well. So yeah, it's you know, it's not for everybody. You just have to know if you can tolerate it or not. But if you can't, there are other options. Like I said, with red light therapies are starting. They do some similar things.
Which red light therapy do you use?
I have. Which one don't I have?
Which one don't you have?
I have the LED red light therapy. That's the mask that I use for 3 minutes a day, and it's by Cure. I really like that company and their mask. I have the Lumo, which has a red light therapy. This is made by a company that uses NASA technology, but it also has RF therapy and EMS, the muscle stimulation, electrical muscle stimulation in one device. So I use it twice a week for about 15 minutes, and I get my RF therapy. And this is stuff people were paying thousands of dollars to go to the certified salons and dermatologist office to get done. So if you have sensitive skin to skincare products and you just can't tolerate them, even vitamin C, these red light therapies are worth it because it's a little bit of money up front. You know, it's anywhere from $200, $300, $400, $500, but this is a device that you're going to use over and over again. That would be the cost of like one treatment at a lot of places.
I have a
especially
Juve.
Radio frequency.
I have the big stand-up Juve that we use for athletic injuries. I have
it works.
red-haired daughter and granddaughter that has eczema. I mean, it's really amazing. So
yeah, those wavelengths, we could do a whole show. Every wavelength has a different impact on the mitochondria. It gives it sort of a different instruction. So now they even have it where it's regrowing hair for people.
Yes,
it's just,
that's right.
And I think we're at the tip of the iceberg of that stuff.
I tell you, the reason I noticed that is that I use the red light therapy on my face, and then they say if you turn around and use the back of your head, it will help with cognitive issues and even dementia, like all these things of the brain, right? Well, my hairdresser was noticing that I was losing so much hair, but she said, "You're growing so much hair right now." And I said,
yeah, it sped up
It did. Totally sped it up. I could comb my floor every morning because of the hair I lose, but I am a thyroid patient. But I also, the cell turnover is so impressive with that. So mine's a Joovv, a Joovv light.
Yeah, I've heard of that one.
Yes, and I really, really like it.
Yeah, I think that, it's like everything. This is a newer tech. It's not new in the sense that they've used it for sports injuries, deep sports injuries, but it is new in the applications we have now. So I think we're still fine tuning a lot of that. But it's if you can't tolerate skincare products or you're having hair loss issues, even worse on alopecia, which is not much does. So they're worth the investment to try them. They work really, really well. There's a lot of clinical studies I like that particular part of the industry has been very careful not to do dramatizations like skincare companies
Right.
have, where you see the before and after, and it says in teeny
Teeny,
tiny letters
teeny,
that
tiny.
dramatization. If it says dramatization, that is a filtered or retouched picture.
Yeah.
That's what that means. That's how the FDA will allow them to get away with that. But because of the NASA, because of the backing of these particular technologies, and that they came from the sports world, you don't see that kind of advertisement for them. You see it's going to take a while, and here's where we are at 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. So these are long-term investment in time, not a lot of time, just consistent time. And it can make a big difference for a lot of people. There are people that have had joint issues that have made all kinds of progress with regeneration issues of tendons.
Yeah. It's
Every body sort of has
amazing therapy.
Yeah, and like you say, yeah, it is. It is, and it's non-invasive.
Right. That's a good thing. Okay, let's talk about the skincare, because I'm the person that I love to go to the bougie salon or to Neiman's, and that whether it's La Mer or any of them, the more expensive it is.
You got the top one right off the bat, didn't you, Lemire?
And I could drink that stuff, but it's really, those aren't superior products, are they? Because I'm spending more?
Not necessarily. I think I'll tell you what I see, and this is the first time I've said this, because it just occurred to me, because I'm always bumping these up on the channel and saying, look, it's the ingredients, not the brand and price. If you've got a formulation you're paying $150 and you like it, guess what? You're going to use it. And
It's true.
What I will say about the luxury products is the people that purchase this are way more consistent in their skincare
That's a good point.
routines than people who buy drugstore brands.
That's a good point.
And so I think that consistency is a big part of that. Now, there's also belief in a product, because we know the mind can really make a big difference. Yeah, and how something works. But those formulations like Lemire, they are well done. I mean, they spend the money to get,
and
they make the money and they spend the money to make, they do. And they're going to use natural fragrance ingredients and not synthetic. So I'm not saying they're bad. J-Lo's line is very good. It's based on olive oil.
Yeah.
I tested it out. I liked it a lot. Can you get similar results and similar product ingredients through the drugstore brands? Yes, you can. The thing you have to be a little careful of is you want to look for things like fragrance and other ingredients that you might not be, like mineral oil and petroleum and wax and things like that. Now, if a lot of the bigger companies, Estee Lauder, Olay, Neutrogena, have moved away from those type of ingredients.
Good.
So much the Neutrogena Hydro Boost line with hyaluronic acid is excellent. They don't have one thing in their formulations that I have a negative feeling about. So if you have super dry skin, that's a really great product line. There's some issues with animal testing in other countries. None of these companies test on animals themselves. The problem is that if they sell in China or they sell overseas, some of those countries will force test that product themselves on an animal. It's very rare to find an American company testing on animals in this country. So there is some pressure there for them to not do that. But as they take some of the ingredients out of those products, I think we'll see less. I hopefully see less and less of that. So it's really where your budget is. You don't have to overspend on good skincare, but you have to be consistent. So if you're going to, I'm just telling you, I know people. My godmother was like that. She had every high end. When I was doing the acne focus and I was taught the book, and I wasn't doing the anti-aging stuff yet, her bathroom counter was full of this stuff. Sudden Change, Lemire, I mean, all of these different products. And so I got to kind of play around with those back then, before I was talking about them now. But really, and the other thing is, it doesn't matter what you pay for something. Take that selfie when you first start using it, patch test it to make sure you don't have any reaction to any of the ingredients, because even lavender, while I love it, is a really good skin. It messes with me. So I can't use it. I get a rash. So skin test, take the selfie, 30 days, take another selfie, 60 days, take another selfie, 90 days, take another one. And if your first and last picture do not look considerably different and you've been very consistent in that product's not doing anything for you, don't buy it anymore. Come to somebody like me on YouTube, or, you know, ask around or Google, you know. You go to Inky Decoder, which is a website that takes all of these skincare brands, takes their products and breaks them down into what are the star components.
Yeah. What's that
way
website?
You can INCI Decoder.
Okay. Because I used to do EWG.org.
Yeah, that's another good one. And then you can take the star components and go find other products that have those.
Okay.
You can Google dupes for.
All right.
If you just went dupes for, in fact, there's a, I can't think of their name. There is a group online. They have a blog. I think you may have to pay to be part of it. But anyway, they do dupes. That's what they do. They take really expensive products and they tell you which products match them as a dupe, or if there isn't one.
I love it, love it, love it.
So with a little bit of time, it's well worth the 30 minutes or an hour if you really care about improving your skin to kind of get your head around some of this. You don't have to know everything, but know that if you have sensitive skin, you don't want alcohol in your products, or mineral oil in your products, or fragrance, period.
Remember those things.
You don't want that.
And remember that
if you have really dry skin, you really have dry skin, you want products that have ceramides, which are those fatty alcohols and fatty lipids that your skin needs to help build the lipid layer. And you want to look at your diet, because a lot of times, if you include things like avocado and omega-3s in your diet, the lipid issue tends to go away. Skin can dry from the inside out, believe it or not.
Very interesting.
It doesn't just have to be a topical product.
Okay, and on that, Chris Gibson is your name. I've got in the show notes, we'll have links to your YouTube and anything else we talked about. We solve the problems of the world here. We could do it again because you're a problem solver, and I thank you so much for being here. Thanks for listening to the Lisa Fisher Said podcast. Be sure to hit subscribe and download all the episodes and leave a review, won't you? The Lisa Fisher Said podcast is produced by ClantonCreative.com.